June 26, 1944, 07:18 hours. Just outside the hedgerows of Normandy, near the village of St. Lo. The morning air smells like wet earth and cordite. A low mist clings to the fields. Somewhere beyond the tangled green walls of bocage, engines are rumbling. Not the deep, deliberate growl of German Maybach motors, but something lighter, faster, many of them. Hauptmann Klaus Richter lowers his binoculars and smirks. Americans, he mutters, they always come loud. Behind him, an 88 gun crew wipes condensation from their optics. A Panzer IV commander climbs halfway out of his turret, scanning the distant hedgerows. The men are calm, confident, almost bored. They've heard this sound before. Thin-skinned tanks, high silhouettes, gasoline engines that burn like torches when hit. In North Africa, they knock them out by the dozens. In Sicily, the same story. American armor burned easily. The crews belayed fast. Their tactics were predictable. The Sherman. To German officers, it is a joke on tracks. They call it the Tommy Cooker. One hit and it goes up in flames. They joke that American tankers ride inside steel coffins with radios. Richter adjusts his field cap and watches the fog. Let them come, he says. We'll teach them again. Then the ground begins to shake. Not from artillery, not from bombs. From engines, hundreds of them. The sound swells from a distant hum into a mechanical roar. The hedgerows tremble. Birds explode into the sky. The earth itself seems to vibrate beneath their boots. A runner stumbles up from the forward observation post, breathless. Herr Hauptmann, armor, massive armor movement. They are advancing on the entire sector. Richter frowns. How many? The runner hesitates. At least 500. The laughter dies instantly. 2 years earlier, in the Tunisian desert, the Sherman had earned its reputation. In February 1943, at Kasserine Pass, German panzer divisions tore through inexperienced American units. Panzer III and IV tanks, backed by 88 guns, carved through U.S. armored formations. Shermans burned across the desert floor, black smoke rising like funeral pyres. German tankers mocked their design. Too tall, too narrow, weak frontal armor, a 75 gun that couldn't penetrate a Panther from the front, a gasoline engine that turned the crew compartment into an oven when hit. Even Rommel himself had dismissed them. They are brave, he said of the American crews, but their machines are not. The Wehrmacht believed tank warfare was about superiority, better armor, better guns, better optics, better training. The Sherman had none of those. But the Americans believed in something else. Production speed, mass. By 1944, Detroit was producing more tanks in a month than Germany could build in a year. And now they were all here. Inside his command bunker, Oberst Friedrich von Kleist listens to reports coming in over field telephone. Sherman columns sighted near Kärnten. Armor concentration south of Isigny. American tank battalion crossing the Vire. His adjutant spreads a map across the table. Red grease pencil marks bloom across the sector like a spreading infection. This is not a probing attack, von Kleist says quietly. This is a breakthrough attempt. Outside, the sky darkens. American artillery opens first. A rolling barrage slams into German forward positions. Tree lines erupt. Earth fountains into the air. Telephone wires snap. Bunkers shake. Men press into the dirt as 105 shells walk methodically across the battlefield. Then come the fighter-bombers. Thunderbolts scream down out of the clouds, rockets slung under their wings. Their engines howl like banshees as they rake German positions with machine gun fire. Half-tracks burn, trucks flip, ammunition dumps detonate in towering pillars of flame. The Luftwaffe is nowhere to be seen. The German line is already bleeding when the Shermans finally appear. They break through the hedgerows in waves. Dozer blades mounted to their hulls carve paths through Normandy's living walls. Infantry ride on the back decks, gripping handholds, rifles raised. Tank commanders stand exposed in open hatches, shouting orders through throat microphones. The first company rolls forward. Then another. Then another. Their radios crackle constantly. Orders flow. Adjustments are made in seconds. Artillery shifts fire ahead of them like a moving curtain. This is not the disorganized armor of North Africa. This is a machine. At Richter's position, the first Sherman crests a low rise. Then 5 more. Then a dozen. The 88 gun fires. The shell punches straight through the lead tank. It erupts in flame. The crew bails out, one man stumbling with his uniform on fire. The Germans cheer. Then the second gun fires. Another Sherman explodes. The Panzer IV opens up. Its 75 gun slams into a third tank, blowing off a track. For a moment, it feels familiar. For a moment, it feels like Tunisia. Then the smoke clears. And the rest keep coming. They don't slow. They don't stop. They spread out, flank, maneuver, call and fire. American artillery slams into the German gun positions. The second 88 is obliterated in a geyser of dirt and steel. The Panzer IV takes a hit in the turret ring. The crew bails. And still the Shermans roll forward. 20, 30, 50, 100. They pour through the breach like water through a broken dam. German infantry scatter. Communications collapse. Units become isolated pockets of resistance swallowed one by one. This is not a duel. It is a flood. Richter watches in disbelief as a Sherman platoon swings wide around his flank, cutting off his retreat. Another pushes straight through his former firing position, crushing sandbags under its tracks. He whispers, "That's impossible." But it is happening. The tank they mocked. The tank they dismissed. The tank they laughed at is now everywhere. And it is not stopping. As the American spearhead pushes deeper into the German rear, a chilling realization spreads through the Wehrmacht command net. This is not about better tanks. This is about being buried under them. And Normandy is only the beginning. That evening, as German units fall back in disarray, Oberst von Kleist sends a message to Army Group B. The enemy armor concentration exceeds all previous estimates. They are attacking with industrial strength. Industrial strength. For the first time, the German High Command begins to understand what they are facing. Not a tank, but a system. And it is rolling straight toward Paris. June 26, 1944, 10:42 hours. The hedgerows near Saint-Lô are now a landscape of fire, smoke, and twisted metal. You can almost hear the earth groan as hundreds of Sherman tanks grind forward through the bocage. The sound isn't just mechanical, it's psychological. It rattles nerves, shakes confidence, and whispers to every German officer on the line, "You misjudged us." Hauptmann Klaus Richter climbs halfway out of his Panther turret, eyes scanning the advancing columns. The first surprise has passed. Now comes the reality. American tactics are precise, not chaotic. They coordinate with artillery, infantry, and air support like a single, living organism. He recalls the training films back in Berlin. The German general staff had warned, massed Sherman assaults lack punch, their armor is weak. They will fail against discipline and superior firepower. They had laughed at the idea of facing 500 of them at once. But here they are, and they're winning. The American tanks split into multiple axes of attack. Shermans with dozer blades push through hedgerows to open paths for accompanying infantry. Others take elevated ground to sweep fire across German positions. Every Sherman carries radios. Every platoon communicates in real time, calling in artillery strikes that seem to anticipate German movement. It's fluid, unstoppable, terrifying. From the German side, chaos is mounting. One Panzer IV crew is knocked out by a 75mm round fired from an unexpected angle. Another Tiger tank attempts to fire into the American flanks, but its viewfinder is shattered by strafing P-47s. Communications lines are cut by artillery fire. Units become isolated pockets, firing into smoke, never knowing if backup is coming. And then comes the most terrifying realization. There are more Shermans than anyone could count. Hundreds. They keep appearing over ridges, through gaps, around hedgerows that were supposed to be defensive walls. It's impossible to retreat. Each path is covered by crossfire. Richter's voice is tight in his throat as he radios his battalion. Fall back now. But the orders reach fragmented units too late. American tanks have already surrounded key positions. Infantry ride atop Shermans, jumping off to seize German bunkers while the armor keeps the enemy suppressed. The Germans, disciplined formations, crumble under sheer weight and coordination. Some commanders, like Oberleutnant Heinrich Vogel, attempt counterattacks. 2 Panzer IVs and a Tiger push forward to intercept. They fire, they maneuver, they destroy a few Shermans. For a moment, hope flickers, but it's fleeting. More Shermans appear on flanks. Air support tears into supply lines. The counterattack falters, then collapses entirely. By noon, entire German companies are cut off. Resistance pockets hold for minutes before being overrun. The American advance is relentless. Every hour, the Wehrmacht loses men, tanks, and morale. The very machines they once mocked, thin-skinned, undergunned Shermans, are now weapons of mass coordination. Richter watches one of the last remaining Panzer IVs get struck in the engine compartment. The crew jumps out, faces pale. In the distance, Sherman tracks churn through fields, bridging gaps, creating new axes of advance. And the laughter, the arrogance, the certainty they carried that morning, it has vanished. Even the Luftwaffe, which might have rescued the situation, is absent. P-47s patrol the skies, ensuring German reinforcements can't move. For every defensive measure the Germans take, there is an American response, ready, calculated, adaptive. By late afternoon, the German command net is in panic. Reports flood in, units destroyed, roads cut off, positions overrun. Oberst von Kleist has no choice but to authorize a full withdrawal to secondary lines. But escape routes are already compromised. Shermans patrol every flank. Artillery fires walk in front of the tanks, cutting off retreats before they can begin. Richter's mind reels. The Sherman, the tank they had called a joke, is everywhere. And it's not just the armor, it's the system, the coordination, the logistics, the production power of America behind them. One tank lost is replaced within hours. 5 tanks. A company appears in its place. As night begins to fall, Richter finally pulls his remaining forces back into a small wooded pocket. Around him, the battlefield is littered with burning vehicles, shattered hedgerows, and the echo of gunfire fading into the distance. He leans against the side of his Panther, hands shaking. The reality hits him with brutal clarity. What they laughed at, mocked, and dismissed, they underestimated completely. And that miscalculation will cost them St. Lo, and soon, the entire Normandy front. Somewhere on the American side, a young lieutenant radios his battalion. "Keep pushing, nothing can stop us now." The tide has turned, the laughter is gone, only fear remains. And in that moment, the German command knows. Normandy will not be won with panzer divisions alone. They are facing a force they cannot outmatch tank for tank, man for man. Only sheer courage and desperate tactics remain. June 26, 1944, 16:30 hours. The sun dips behind the low Normandy hills, casting long shadows over fields scarred with craters, burnt-out tanks, and shattered hedgerows. Smoke curls skyward, and the air is thick with the acrid smell of cordite and burning fuel. Hauptmann Klaus Richter stumbles through the rubble-strewn field, pausing to catch his breath. Around him, the remnants of his company are scattered. Panzer crews sit dazed beside their dead machines, staring at the approaching Shermans, which continue to advance with relentless precision. It is here, in the midst of chaos, that the truth hits Richter and every German officer watching. They have misjudged the enemy entirely. The Sherman tank, once a punchline in their reports, is no longer merely a vehicle. It is a weapon of overwhelming force when combined with artillery, air support, and disciplined infantry. And it is everywhere. Oberst Friedrich von Kleist, in his command post, studies the battlefield reports. Lines are falling apart. Communications are fragmented. Units that were meant to hold the front are trapped, encircled, and being systematically destroyed. For the first time, the German command begins to understand the scale of what they are up against. Industrial power made tactical, production turned into strategy. Every hour, more Shermans roll forward. 50, 100, 200. They are accompanied by infantry who leap from tanks to secure captured positions, engineers who clear obstacles faster than the Germans can respond, and artillery that shifts faster than any traditional front could manage. Richter walks past a destroyed Panther. Its turret is twisted, tracks mangled, engine cold. The crew lies in the mud nearby, staring blankly. He cannot reconcile the machine that once represented German engineering supremacy with the chaotic destruction around him. He whispers under his breath, almost in denial. They said these tanks were inferior. They were, by design. But the Americans had turned inferiority into an advantage: mobility, speed, numbers, and coordination. The Germans realized that the Sherman does not need to outgun a Panther to dominate the battlefield. It only needs to keep moving, keep attacking, and overwhelm the enemy before they can respond. Field reports flood in. The town of Cairnton has fallen. Roads previously thought secure are now occupied by American columns. Forward observation posts have been cut off. Entire German companies report casualties exceeding 50%. And yet the Americans show no signs of fatigue. They adapt. They respond. Every German defensive measure is met with an equal and opposite counteraction. This is not combat as the Wehrmacht knows it. It is a new kind of warfare, one built on relentless pressure and industrial might. Richter's heart pounds as he surveys the horizon. Shermans crest a hill 20 meters away. The sun glints off their armor. Infantry atop the tanks wave as they move forward, shouting orders and gesturing to units behind them. It is a sight that would have been laughable to the German officers weeks before. Now it is terrifying. Oberleutnant Heinrich Vogel approaches Richter, his face pale and drawn. "Hauptmann," he says, "the men they cannot hold. We are being encircled. Every retreat is covered. Every flank is covered." Richter swallows hard. He knows what Vogel means. This is not a setback. This is a collapse in slow motion. The Sherman was dismissed, laughed at, underestimated, and now it has become unstoppable. From the sky, the faint roar of P-47s punctuates the moment. Their rockets scream down into German positions, exploding ammunition depots and armored trucks. Anti-tank guns are obliterated before they can fire a second shot. The battlefield has become a machine itself, one that favors the Americans. In this moment of realization, German officers experience something they have rarely felt: helplessness. Not because of lack of skill, not because of poor leadership, but because of sheer scale. There is nothing they can do to stop what is coming. The Sherman has transcended its physical limitations. It is no longer just a tank. It is a symbol of the industrial and tactical supremacy of the Allies. Richter watches as another Sherman column advances along a ravine, flanking his position. He hears the crackle of machine gun fire from accompanying infantry. He sees Panzer crews fleeing in disarray. And for the first time, he allows himself to admit what he cannot deny. They were wrong. Every calculation, every assumption, every mockery of the Sherman, they were wrong. As dusk falls over the battlefield, a chilling silence follows the first wave of the Sherman advance. The devastation is total, and the German officers know this is only the beginning. Normandy is changing before their eyes. The tides of war, long thought steady, have shifted irrevocably. And somewhere in the advancing columns, a young American lieutenant radios back to his battalion. "Keep pushing, don't let them regroup. This is our moment." The German officers are left staring, defeated, as the unstoppable flood continues. June 26, 1944, 1945 hours. The fields outside Saint-Lô are unrecognizable. Smoke drifts in ragged columns from burning tanks. Hedgerows are torn apart, leaving gaping scars across the countryside. The air is heavy with the smell of oil, gunpowder, and human exhaustion. Hauptmann Klaus Richter trudges through mud and debris, his uniform streaked with soot. The once-proud Panzer IVs and Tigers lie scattered, twisted by shellfire and flamethrowers. Sherman tracks have carved new paths across the earth, paths that will soon become highways for advancing infantry and supply units. Everywhere he looks, the evidence is undeniable. The tank they had mocked, the Tommy Cooker, has rewritten the rules of engagement. 50, 100, 500 Shermans moving as one, each reinforced by artillery, air power, and infantry coordination. It was more than a machine. It was a system that German doctrine had never anticipated. Oberst Friedrich von Kleist composes a message to Army Group B. Enemy armor concentration exceeds all previous estimates. They attack with speed, coordination, and numbers we cannot counter. Withdrawal to secondary lines necessary. Casualties severe. Situation critical. The word critical barely scratches the surface. German units are fractured. Communication is fractured. Morale is fractured. Some officers retreat into small villages, hopping to regroup. Others surrender when surrounded by advancing Shermans. Meanwhile, American commanders celebrate. Brigadier General Creighton Abrams watches his tanks advance over battered hedgerows. Reports flood in. Objectives secured, German resistance collapsing, prisoners taken. His voice over the radio is calm, professional, but there is an unmistakable thrill. He knows the psychological blow has been delivered. The enemy has underestimated him, underestimated his machines, underestimated the system that supports them. Night falls. The battlefield is quiet except for distant artillery, the occasional crack of a final panzer shot, and the low groan of Sherman engines still rolling through the countryside. German officers huddle in ruined farmhouses, poring over maps in dim candlelight. Each realizes the same thing. This is not just a defeat. This is a paradigm shift. Hauptmann Richter kneels beside a destroyed Panther. He runs his fingers along the scorched metal. For weeks, he had dismissed the Sherman. He had joked about its thin armor, ridiculed its gun, and laughed at its reputation. Now all of that seems naive, almost absurd. The Sherman has proven that mass, coordination, and relentless momentum can overcome superior technology and tactical brilliance. It is a lesson written in fire and steel across Normandy, one that the German command will never forget. Somewhere in the shadows, young American tankers share quiet words of triumph, unaware that history is being made beneath their tracks. They are not just fighting for a village or a hedgerow. They are demonstrating the industrial and logistical might of a nation, turning underestimation into victory. For the German officers who had laughed earlier that morning, the truth is now unavoidable. The Sherman tank, once a punchline, is now the weapon that defines the battlefield, and it has left a trail of destruction, disbelief, and shattered pride in its wake. By the end of the day, the Americans have pushed the front forward, securing Saint-Lô and cutting vital German supply lines. German morale is in tatters. Officers whisper to one another, haunted by the memory of what they underestimated. And as night deepens, the echoes of tank engines fade into the distance, but the lesson remains. The world has changed, and so has warfare. The laughable Sherman is no longer a joke. It is unstoppable. June 27, 1944, 05:30 hours. A pale light breaks over the shattered fields of Normandy. Mist curls around the remnants of hedgerows, revealing twisted steel and scattered bodies. The battlefield is eerily silent, except for the distant growl of Sherman engine preparing for another advance. Hauptmann Klaus Richter stands on a low ridge, surveying the aftermath. He feels every step of the last 24 hours in his bones, every explosion, every scream, every moment of disbelief. The Wehrmacht had believed in superior technology, in German engineering, in precision and training. They had mocked the Sherman, laughed at its weaknesses, and assumed courage alone would carry their crews to victory. They were wrong. The American system of warfare, mass, coordination, and relentless pressure, has proven its superiority. Tanks move like clockwork, artillery pounds in perfect synchronization, infantry rides forward with speed and purpose. Each Sherman lost is replaced almost instantly, each tactical misstep covered by the sheer momentum of industrial power. The Germans realize, painfully, that they are fighting not just men or machines, but a machine of war that moves faster, strikes harder, and adapts quicker than any individual effort can withstand. Richter walks among his remaining men. Their faces are pale, eyes haunted. Some refuse to speak. The laughter and arrogance of yesterday are gone, replaced by fear, exhaustion, and shame. These are the faces of men who learned too late that underestimation is a battlefield death sentence. He recalls the day in North Africa when Shermans were easy prey, when a single well-placed shell could destroy an entire tank column. Back then, he had told himself, "The Americans fight bravely, but their machines are weak. We are superior." How bitterly ironic that belief feels now. From his vantage point, he watches Sherman columns push forward into the soft morning light. Their numbers are staggering. Engineers clear obstacles with ease. Infantry ride the tanks, leap off to secure ruined villages, then leap back on to continue the assault. Artillery follows, adjusting as if guided by an invisible hand. Richter knows one truth: the Germans cannot stop this force. Not with bravery, not with cunning, not with panzer divisions or elite units. The tide has shifted irreversibly. At the makeshift headquarters of Oberst von Kleist, officers gather around maps once more. They trace the paths of the American advance, noting where resistance has failed, where flanks have been pierced, and where reinforcements have been cut off. Each line, each dot, each burned-out tank tells the same story. The Sherman is no longer an inferior machine. It is a symbol of relentless industrial, tactical, and logistical power, and it has rewritten the rules of the battlefield. One officer whispers in disbelief, "They laughed at it, we laughed at it, and now." Von Kleist does not finish the sentence. He cannot. The silence speaks louder than words. The lesson is written in steel, mud, and blood across Normandy. Never underestimate a system designed to move faster, strike harder, and adapt quicker than you can react. As Sherman columns continue their push, Richter finally allows himself to accept it. The tank they mocked, the machine that seemed weak and laughable, is unstoppable, not because it is superior in any traditional sense, but because it embodies a strategy, a system, and a will that German forces cannot match. And somewhere in the distance, an American lieutenant radios back to command. "Objective secured, keep pressing. There's nothing that can stop us now." The German officers stare at the horizon, knowing this is not just a loss of territory. It is a loss of confidence, of morale, of the very assumptions that once guided their actions. The Sherman has done more than win a battle. It has changed the way war will be fought. And for the German officers who laughed at it, the truth is simple, terrifying, and irreversible. They underestimated the Sherman. And it cost them everything. End.